starry summer night or a snow-covered winter's day, and everybody's beautiful in their own way. Under God's heaven, the world's gonna find a way. There is none so blind as he who will not see. We must not close our minds. We must let our thoughts be free. Every hour that passes by, you know the world gets a little bit older. It's time to realize that beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder.
He took those kids away from their families, put them in a settlement hundreds of miles away, like at Magumba where Auntie Eileen was. They were like butterflies in a glass box, you know, pinned down and labelled.
We weren't called Australians then, we were only called full blood or natives, you know. We had no title, nobody wanted us because we were in between. We were half caste, and that's how they branded us. Half caste, quarter caste, quadroon. And that's the way it was.
His plan was to break us all up and make us like whitefellas, but really we just ended up working for him.
Then one day Neville and another man came down and we all lined up and they separated us. And I remember him saying half caste, quarter caste and quadroons. And we all went separate ways. We left the Magumba then.
Time's up, you're 14 now, off you go to earn your keep. The boys were sent off to labouring and the girls put on the cap and apron. Kids got to make friends in that place, then lost 'em.
We had no choice with our life. They just said, you go to this house and you work for the people and that's what you're to do. I went to this one lady's place and I said to her that day, I can't work no more because I was sick. And she said, you'll do as you're told. She smacked me across the face and she said, you're a servant.
Problem was you had to live somewhere, but Noongar's couldn't own land. It was a law, so we couldn't buy houses and rentals were very hard to get in Perth. So a lot of people ended up living in camps out along the railway line.
We were more or less brought up in that lifestyle and we didn't see it as being really hard. You know, we were sort of used to it because the people and like government departments and the police and all these people sort of said, you know, that's where you belong, that's where you live, and because we accepted. As long as we had a tin camp or a few sticks or, you know, a bit of paper bark made into a roof overhead, yeah, that was it. You know, it didn't make any difference to us as long as we kept the rain away and had a feed now and again. Because we shared everything we had. You know, they were calling us communists for a while because, you know, we'd always share. You know, anybody could go to anybody's place and you'd always get a bed, you'd always get a feed, you know.
If you were lucky, you ended up renting down in East Perth.
Poor. Everybody was poor. Black, white, crippled, ugly, good looking. Everybody was poor. And I think that's the thing that kept us all together. But East Perth was a melting pot for blackfellas, Pommies, Irish, Greeks, and it was just one hell of a place to be. It was fantastic. We used to go swimming down the Bunner Bridge where the old power works were, and the hot water used to run into the river. A few kids were drowned, but it was just one of the things. There was the plaster works where you go and get covered in white, be white for 5 minutes. Factories, industry, smoke, coal, rats, everything. It was all there.
Meanwhile, old Mr. Neville would be up in his office making more plans.
The City of Perth has been declared a prohibited area under Section 39 of the Aborigines Act. Hereafter, Aborigines found loitering in the city will be accosted by the police and possibly arrested if they cannot explain their presence in the town.
Come 6 o'clock, we were supposed to be off the streets, disappear into thin air. It was all about not seeing us. They marked out their territory with a red line, and we weren't supposed to be inside it. What a joke. If you look at a map of Perth in the late 30s, there we were, all cramped in together in East Perth, a stone's throw from Town Hall, hard up against the red line. It wasn't going to be easy to stay hidden. We had our own way of looking at it. We knew where everyone lived, the best way to get from one place to another, which side of the street to be on. You knew which shops would serve you, which cops were okay, and which ones weren't. People would meet up in town at what we called Noongar Corner, and there were some seats across the road.
It's the 26th
Oh, the white
of
seats.
September.
I'll never forget the white seats.
It's the year 1997.
Every blackfellow knew, every blackfellow would meet, and that's where you could always find Bill Bodley.
It's Sunday morning coming down. It's
You could
quiet.
always find
It's
Mary
cold.
Forrest. We could always
It's 5
find
o'clock
every
Perth
blackfellow
time,
Bodley.
West Australia.
It's the white seats.
When someone would say, go do your best or whatever, or which way the white seat or something like that, we all knew where the white seat was. And we'd sort of head back to there, and that's where we'd sort of catch up with one another.
There were places we met,
It is said
places we used.
in the dreaming
Many of them had been for a
a
long
long
time,
time ago.
like what we call the bull paddock down by the river. The
It's
sort of
through
time
the
that
dreaming
kind, you know? Someone's
that we,
playing up
the
and
Aboriginal
listening to
people,
space. Down they go.
That's the blackfellas of today.
Just a drain with the cast-off trees.
Visualise
There's a cricket patch just on the side, just down from that old...
and look back down through the laneways
Bronte, yeah, Bronte.
and the paths
And they used to just live in a big
of
drain
yesterday,
and sleep under the cast-off tree.
where our
Yeah, the bull
ancestors
paddock.
Bull paddock.
took up their living lifestyle
Used to sleep around the cemetery there.
in the surroundings
And whatever, you know.
of nature's gift,
Couldn't get a bed for the night or couldn't fit in somewhere.
the whole of the Swan Valley,
A lot that had already gathered together.
which was once,
Some would, just go to sleep in the cemetery there.
as the Whitefella says
That's
today,
the safest place going. Away from all the police and monarchs.
when they
and
first
whatever
came
else
here.
you call it.
The wildness and the beauty of what nature created. That was then, but since then and now, things have been destroyed. The whole of the valleys,
Back then, how to get by.
beautifulness,
Everyone cared for one another, you know?
and the way
Those
nature
visited, chased by the cops or
went
whatever.
about creating it
Someone would take you in,
has gone.
turn your back on trouble and laugh,
In place of
have a
it
cup
is
of tea.
Roads, fences, power
Early
lines,
in the morning, you'd
houses.
see those old girls heading off to their servicing jobs.
It was there back in the past that
It wasn't only rich people who had
when time
servants.
began,
The wages for our black
and
women were
as
so
us, the
cheap,
Aboriginal
anyone
people,
could afford us. But in the
came into
Kookaroo
existence
times, a lot of
and
those
went
women
through
used to work
the
in the posh
process
suburbs. Beautiful
of
places.
our living
they were.
lifestyle through generations of Aboriginal people right up until now. It is said in our dreaming and the records of our minds, it's been told time and again, how our warrior Yagan stood proud and tall and spoke and defended. In his time, what he saw was a wrong did against the rightness of us,
Those old
The
Yorgers
first
worked
inhabitants.
hard, scrubbing, washing, all the
who at
dirty
the time
jobs. Their wages were peanuts.
were
And
in
these
control
people
of
had the
our
money to
own
pay
daily
cotton,
lives
but they ripped them off.
from an Aboriginal person's point of view
My
and
mother
from
used to
our
say
way
to
of
me,
living and our
"Girl,
lifestyle.
keep your house clean and your
The
body
coming
clean,
of the white
and
man
no one can point a finger at you."
brought
Makes
nothing
me
but
sad to think of
destruction
that, because really she was
towards
talking
us
about being a servant to
in
white
our living
people.
lifestyle and our
them always
culture.
thinking she wasn't clean because she was black.
This beginning
They'd finish up
unfolds
work,
within
go
itself
out.
of
The bus
that
would
man
have stopped for
Yagan.
'em, so they'd have to walk home. On top of this,
The
they had to
difference
go
of
through the
opinion
prohibited area to
from the
get
white
back
fella
there,
then
and they'd be worrying about the 6 o'clock law and the cops.
was plotted and planned against total destruction.
They used to have a permit
And the
from the
removal
Native
of
Affairs
a
Department,
lot of our
giving them
ancestors
permission to pass through the
through
prohibited
massacres and
area.
killing and
You'd
raping
get
of our
pulled
women
up and have to show that thing.
and killing of
If
our
you didn't
children
have
and
one, like most of the
jailing our
countries wouldn't,
menfolk
they'd march you off and lock you up for the night.
for little or nothing in the past.
Now,
The
if
story
you wanted to
unfolds
get away from all these laws,
that
you
Yagan
could apply
defending
for an exemption from
the
the
rights of his
Aborigines
people
Act.
was
But you didn't
outlawed,
expect him to just give it to you.
and he
You
was
knew
killed.
it'd make you sweat for it.
shot in the back of the head,
Re Helena Clark.
and had his head cut
Report
off.
that the applicant is
Taken
well
away
known to me. During
to
the
a place
time
called
she has
England.
resided in Perth, I have kept her
That's right
under
across
regular observation.
The
She is a
grandmother
very
of all
fine type
rivers,
of native girl.
which is the sea.
To
Through our
Constable
dreaming.
Munro. When handing
The
the
sea
certificate
dreaming.
to this native girl,
The
I
waterways
would be
dreaming,
pleased
the land
if she
dreaming,
could be advised that she must now cease
all
all
part of
association with natives.
body and soul.
She is now required at all times
how we
to
went
live
about our
according
living
to
lifestyle.
reasonable white standards.
keeping
Any
the corridors
unsatisfactory
of our
conduct of
minds
any nature will
always
result in investigation.
stories that has been passed on
The mobile app that has become the
in and along, and through and around and up.
You received that card and automatically
Down.
became a white person.
Those
Now
dreamings
you
will
had the
continue
rights of a
on,
white person.
even if
You
there's
could
no
go to
person
town and
left to
walk
walk.
around.
The dreaming
When I was
stories will
offered
still
the
be
exemption,
within the day, the night, the wind,
I
the
was called to
rain.
the police station, and
Each grain of sand and blade of grass,
had something
each
for me.
tree
Went there,
on the top
and
to the
he said,
roots
"Now,
of
I'm
it
giving
down
you
the
this.
ground.
Now you
Will
realise
always
not
be.
to have any of your black native
Yagan's head was cut
relatives,
off and taken away to
anyone that's
England.
not exempted in your home." Well, I was living with
It
my
was
sister
there that
at
it
the
lay.
time, and I said,
For
"Well, if I can't,
164
you
years.
can have it back now, because I don't
And
want
the
it
story
under those
unfolds that
circumstances. I never wanted it."
a tracker
I
by
said,
the
"No,
name of Ken Colburn
yet." But to be offered something like that in your own country,
followed and traced
just
for 20 or more or less years.
So, in
And then
1945,
not so long
at the
ago,
end of the war,
on this day
out
back
comes all the soldiers
down the
into the
track,
segregated world. And among them is this white
through
fella
some of
called
those
Jeff
yesterdays
Arthurs.
that
He was different to the
the
whites
Aboriginal
you
people
usually met.
start to talk
He
and
got on
look
better with Noongars than his
and
own
plot
lot. Like
and
most of
plan
that old mob, he's gone now,
that
finished,
they must
passed
go
on. All we've got left of him
and
is a
try
few of
for
his
the last
photos
time
and
to bring
things.
this man's head
A
home,
taped interview that he recorded.
to connect it up with the rest of his headless body.
When I returned to Perth from the war, I was
In
a
a
bit
clay.
bewildered in a sense. We
All
went
that's
to
been
war
done
because we saw Australia
help us
as
one
the land
area.
of freedom and opportunity.
So
But
it
when
was
I got
decided
home,
that
I realised how
three
bad
men
things were for
and
Aborigines
one
in this
woman
country.
would
Now, there was one
undertake
law for whites
this
and another for
journey
Noongars. Now, when I was stationed
on the
in New
Perth
Guinea,
metropolitan
working with
area
the local Papuans,
from the
I met
international
quite a few
airport in
Noongar
South
soldiers,
Guildford.
all good men. And I thought this sort of double standard thing was
It was
really
all
wrong.
finalised that
They were
myself,
always criticising
Mingley,
Noongars in the papers.
Richard Wilkes,
And things like they didn't get the pension
Ken
for
Colburn
returned servicemen, or housing,
were the
or even
people
just to mention that they'd done their bit in
chosen to
the war.
go.
All that just didn't come into it.
The
Back in
planning
those days, Aborigines were
and
a
setting
separate
myself
people.
to go with these people
Like on the buses, Noongars would sit up the back. That was the attitude of the white
Weeks
people.
ahead,
You just don't mix with them.
and then we
There was
started
segregation.
our long journey.
There was a law.
The
Cohabitation
first
it was.
stage of our journey
To
would
stop
be a
whites
7
mixing
hours
with
flight
Noongars. I got arrested a couple of
from the
times
Perth airport
just for talking
in
to a
South
Noongar
Guildford
army mate, Sporty
to Hong
Jones.
Kong.
The cops came along and whammo, arrested
It was
me.
a journey
Took
that
me
we
down to the
all
station.
clearly
And it
understood
made me rebel, I
that anything
suppose.
possible
I wanted to do something to
happen
change this sort of thing.
along the
Things had
ways.
to change.
Had just been assassinated, myself having a heart attack.
When I was 16
Or any
years
one of us
old, in Port Hedland,
dropped dead.
we had a open-air picture theatre, and one
we
evening
weren't.
I turned up, and there was a rope
As
across
messengers
where we
sent
used to
by the
sit,
Aboriginal
and I asked
people,
the
as the
chaplain
Aboriginal
that was,
nation,
running the theatre,
bring
what was it for?
our
And she
warrior
said, "Oh, that was
Yagan
for all
Zip
you people
back home
to sit
and do the
there."
right thing
So I
by
said,
him,
that's it. I went out
even
and
though
wanted
it was
my money back.
164
And everybody that
years.
came there, I told them the situation, and we boycotted it for 6 weeks
from
until
the
we
time
won,
it was
and we
taken
could sit
off
anywhere
till
we
now.
liked after that. So this is the sort of thing, mildly,
We completed our 7 hours flight to Hong Kong,
passive resistance.
and it was a one-day
I
wait
came down from Port Hedland to
at Hong
Perth,
Kong itself
and I went to Jessie
We was
Smith's
booked in
place. We called her Aunt
to a
Jessie.
hotel where we could
And all
rest.
the men, women,
sleep.
young and old, we all met there. And it was
Those
like a
many
little
hours that we had to
social club.
wait.
Some played cards, some just sat around and talked, played music, whatever. She had a big yard.
I studied
There
all
was no
the
place else that I know
traffic as I
of
was
that
going to
people
and
could
from my
meet,
window.
you know. So from there I made several other friends.
There's one thing I picked
and
out
sort of branched
was the
out.
red taxis. There was many.
I was always politically
I
minded.
studied the little
And the only political party that really
7 or
accepted
8
coloured people, Aboriginals, was the
11-story
Communist Party. They
buildings.
more or less encouraged it.
little square white,
But
shabby-looking buildings.
I went out of curiosity
An
more than
overpopulated
wanting to
city,
join. But
I guessed.
I felt that the Communist Party, they were trying to accept the coloured people into their party so
I
that they
studied
could
all
have
the
votes,
business
game or power.
of the aeroplanes
because,
coming in and
they
going
knew we were
out.
after. And
It's a small
generally
airport
bettering things for themselves. I don't think that the
of the big
coloured
giants.
people really came into it.
This is a 4-engine
Noongars
Flying
tried to seek
aeroplanes
change
that's
through the Commos
standing
and other white organisations, but they
like
realised
big
it wouldn't work.
blowflies
No one was going to help.
out on the
So I was
runaways.
still looking for
They don't
something,
think
and
that
then
you've got to be taxied from
we
the
sort of
building in these
a
little
few
fat,
others, people like Jeffrey.
jumpy-looking little buses out to this big, huge plane, and you had to climb the steps from the ground up to the door. And by the time you got to the top of the door, believe you me, you had a wind, especially me.
Jumped at it. I thought that this was our opportunity to do something.
We left
Even if there
the
was only a few.
hotel, prepared ourselves once more to go back to the airport
I felt that I had arrived.
to undertake the 13-hour flight journey from Hong Kong to London Airport. We boarded the plane.
The Coolbaroo dance was the highlight of the week.
I become
It was a
anxious.
chance to get
I
together
become
with your own mob. Catch up on
uneasy.
any gossip, you know, have a bit of
Thoughts were
fun.
rushing through my mind.
We always look forward. The weekends
Would we
couldn't come quick
succeed?
enough to get into the
Would
lounge.
there be Blockstones when we touched down at the London airport
It was great.
and started our process and our journeys to the hotel in London and then going on up to Liverpool? The 13 hours flight
There
began.
was one little clause that we put in that no
It was bum-aches,
European
twisting and turning in your seat,
country would be able to have an executive position in the club for the simple
my
reason
ankles ached.
if they got in, we would be
constantly
controlled by
drank
them.
orange
That's the way
drink.
I felt.
There's one thing for sure. They feed you.
There was
All
this
the time.
flurry of excitement at the house, you know, because the family would get dressed and all go to the Coolaboo Club, all dressed up to
Your
the
flight
nines.
continues on,
That's the only time of the week you got to wear your shoes.
heading in the direction of London.
Because they had to get to last you for the rest of the year, you know, 2 years. It was fabulous.
The breaking of the
Dolled up in these leery clothes, which you weren't allowed
day
to touch or even look
just
at.
before
for
we
the rest
got
of
into
the week, you know.
London. I looked out the
On
window,
Friday night,
and
people
there
had
it
poured
was.
to East Perth from out of town, coming in from the country or the
The
camp.
small light
Get there however
showing
they could.
in the distance. Then it became red.
That's how
It
I
was
went to dance
nature.
at the Coolaboo League.
The coming and the rising of the
My right
sun.
foot from my left foot when I first went there, it seemed like I had two left
It was
feet.
a redness
So,
that I've never seen
special gentleman
in
there,
all my life,
Mr. George
and I don't
Abdallah,
think I could ever find that
professional
colour
ballroom
again
dancing
because
person.
it's designed by
All the
nature
young
itself.
Aboriginal people watched his movements as he danced, and we all
The redness
picked that
and
up,
the darkness.
you know. And after 2 or 3 weeks or a month, we're
With
all
the breaking away of the
champion
night out,
dancers, huh?
our Father the
So
Sun
I went
rose.
on to win awards for
push the
professional ballroom
darkness.
dancing and so forth.
And I think the highlight of the Coolaboo
Further
dances,
and
kids from
further.
my point of view anyway, was the supper.
Back
All the old girls used to
until
do
the
their
whole
own
of the
cakes
light of the day
make tea, and
made it clear so that
we
you
weren't
could
allowed to
see
drink tea, but if we went to a Coolaboo dance,
colours in the cloud.
got a cup of tea. Jeez,
were
that was
red.
great, you know.
A redness I've never seen.
Boat cakes.
The darkness
Loved them.
and the greyness.
Never have had them
As the
before.
sun
My mother could
rose.
make them beautifully, but she wouldn't give us kids one, you see.
And it made me think of my mother,
Pink icing and hundreds of thousands on them, you know, so
who's dead
you'd sort of wait
a lot
until
of
someone
years
started
now.
getting itchy for supper, and you'd run like hell to snatch a few of these off the plate.
I thought it was
My mother
sweat
could
running
make them,
down
but
my
we never had
cheeks.
them at home.
But then
As a
again,
teenager, going to those dances,
sweat doesn't come
and I
from
guess
in your eyes.
because my father was white, I was always having to
I thought of
prove
Mum.
that I was as good as the next person.
I miss her now.
Because sometimes I'd even
And I strained
spawned on
and
other
looked
Aboriginal people.
right out long and hard and through the redness and the darkness and the greyness of all those beautiful colours
And
to see if I could see
going
her.
along to the Coolaboo dances,
But it was not to
I didn't
be.
have to worry about that. Because most of the people there were family,
The plane
and they knew where we fitted in. So there was just that
kept going
we're not having to pretend to be something
and it
else.
became light in its all its fullness of the
It was a
day.
great thing, coming from the country and
Touching down at London Airport
and I really had no
was
social
like
life at home.
seeing
So
and
coming
stepping
down
out
and meeting up with Nora,
in the middle of
then drove around to Coolaboo Club, and no, it was excellent.
coming and
Once we
going.
started, we had lots
There were
of daughters.
passageways to go
And
through.
one
There
one
was
of the
lines of
really
people.
loyal,
There was
staunch
trolleys.
people
There was
was
noise.
Jeffrey Artis. Jeffrey restored
nationalities of people were
and I think
many.
even though he was white,
With their different
he was
dresses and
white.
different colours.
And
They were
even
dark,
after
they were
he
white.
And went away. He was still there for years afterwards.
But no one
And
looked
I think
twice
the
at you.
Coolaboo was still going, and he was
Because you
alive.
was
and
moving
still
to and
there.
from. Whatever direction you was going, there was that many people going in the other direction.
criticised for mixing with Aboriginal people. And there were times when I was around.
We was met
I heard people
and
saying,
taken from the
"Oh,
London
mixing with
airport
Aboriginal people." He just
through the town
shrugged it off and
to this
kept doing what he
hotel,
was doing. I think he was doing
passing
it.
through the streets of many
Back
buildings.
then, friendships between black and
different
white was just
type
like the bloody
buildings than
thing.
what we have
But
here.
Jeff and Ronnie Kickett were real friends.
The
You hardly
towns
saw
were
one
busy.
without the other.
The double-decker bus was moving to and from and going in whatever direction they're going and coming from or wherever they're heading.
He was a lovely, lovely person. He was
The
just
taxis.
so nice and so
Not
gentle.
like ours here.
And we sort of looked at him in
Beautiful taxis.
total respect because
We
he
arrived
used to
at
say in
our
very hushed tones. You know, he's a very
English accommodation hotel.
sickness he had, but we'd sort of look at him and think, oh yes.
Different type streets.
But he was so good on those drums. He was brilliant, and God, could he play those drums?
We booked in and went to our rooms. My room was a small room. a small table, one
I remember
chair,
old Bill Bodney.
one little bin.
If they hadn't raised enough money, he used to come
I
out
went
onto
to
the
the
floor and thump his
shower
cane
to
and
have a look
shout,
to the toilet.
"More money!
There was the
Come
toilet
on,
seat.
back in!"
There
All
was
the
the wash
mamas would empty
basin,
their pockets.
cramped in.
Oh, they used to
And
listen
the
to him all
hugest
right.
thing in that small room was that huge big tub,
To me, he was like the king,
bathtub.
and everyone just followed him.
You could fit a small elephant in it.
But Uncle Tommy Broker, he was not a
I
clown,
felt like a
but
small mice
he was
in that
the
room,
person who made you laugh.
sitting on the toilet pan
He brought
next to
all
the
laughter
huge
into
big
it,
tub like an
right?
elephant.
Thank you all for coming.
The meals were good.
Don't want no more flowers. Want everyone on the floor.
There were coloured people.
Everyone get up and do the dance. Or
Beautiful.
Tunes.
African women with their white blouse and black skirts and their little black bow ties. White teeth, smiling. There were black African men with black trousers.
Bill or Tom, or someone else with respect as an elder, had always be the one that dealt with any tensions inside the club. They'd just take them aside and have a word, and it usually
When I
worked,
seen those
you know,
people there,
because it was along their own way of doing
of the
things.
deep south in America,
One night,
what we read about and hear about in
different ones
Africa.
had little feuds amongst
Yes,
themselves.
Juana.
Somebody decided to bring a tomahawk,
It reminded me of
and we all wore real evening
Jackie
gowns,
and
we all
Mary
had great big
in the early days, which the white men called our
somebody came along and
ancestors.
said to me, "There's a
boss.
tomahawk under your seat."
Yes, missus, me scrub your floor.
I couldn't bend down
Reminded me
and pick it
of
up.
all
and
those
I had
things.
high heels on, so I just sat down, wrapped the tomahawk in my full
that they were servants. They were working people.
Mr. Bowden.
They were real.
But I never ever found out who
They respected us the same as we respected them.
I suppose it wouldn't be
We had 2 nights there, and one day
dance without
it
some
was decided that we had to get to Liverpool.
production going amongst the Aboriginal community.
But in that one day we was there, we had to go down and meet the Australian High Commission.
There was
He
two
was a big,
particular families,
bulky
I think
type
they were
woman
like
and a
hillbillies. They had a running feud
very stern-looking white
for God
man.
knows how many years.
We journeyed down in a taxi. We went into this big building.
No, what am I?
As we was going along, we went past Buckingham Palace with the Queen and the royal family. We could see the guard
And
standing.
we got hunting the next week. And
We seen a cavalcade of horses going down the street with these soldiers with
And
their
they were so busy
funny-looking costumes on and their helmets on with the spears sticking up from the head, sharp things and their swords.
Spoil a good night out. It only brought the police.
It's a town of many statues.
They had 2 main laws they used to harass the club: disturbing the
It has
peace,
a history,
and then the
has many
alcohol.
statues, which I know
It
not
was
of.
illegal for Noongars. If
It's
they were
probably of
caught
the early day
or
Scots,
even looked like
Irishmen or Englishmen,
they'd go to jail. That's why
how they probably fought for their rights.
away.
Anyway, we arrived at this big building.
Oh, don't stuff up
We went in.
you know. I'll close this down. So there was always that.
And this big white woman, boy, could she talk.
Well, the adults.
And this
they
white
were
man
extremely,
backed her up.
Very, very best behaviour.
Ken Colbung started off first and they made him look like a little pickaninny.
Going wild and really getting stuck
Little
in
black
a
boy.
really good party, you know.
He talked, but they had a
So while you're having
question
a
for
good time,
everything that he
you're
asked,
always aware that
and they chopped him to
past the
pieces.
ground could be gone, you know.
Richard
So, yes,
Wilkes,
it's quite horrible having this cops having
he said but a few words.
like they had nothing better to do.
I don't think he was experienced enough. Mingley,
Police surveillance
she talked and talked.
was a big thing those days.
I thought she was a real talker, but she was no match.
Years ago, you had to.
There was another Aboriginal boy there who helped Ken on the past. He's from Queensland, and a white, small, skinny young white woman who did a lot of research with Ken.
And while the sergeant
They hardly
was
said
doing
anything.
necessary papers, I looked up on this.
But this white man and woman, they really stuck the boots into Ken, Richard, and Mingley. I sat there and listened, and then I had a shot at them.
And then we
And
got
I asked them,
outside.
what
She
did
said, "Do you know why?" And
they do
I
to
said, "No, I don't."
help
She said, "It's to keep track of us.
organising,
where we are.
bringing this
If there's any trouble, and the police,
of the
someone
taking
the
of
police,
our
they know exactly where
warrior
to
Zed
go."
Yagan
The cops put
on
a
them
billboard
back
to
home?
the government.
And their answer
They
was
only carried out what was laid down by the fellas up in Parliament.
quietness, because
And the
they had
department
nothing
responsible
organised.
for all this, which began as
It was then
Aboriginals
that the
officially,
conversation
was now called the Native Welfare.
started to weaken from these white men and white women.
It was like a cloud
So we
hanging over
filed
our
out
lives.
onto the street, and
Because
same
all
as
those
usual, the
things,
reporters
even
were
if
there.
you said
They were
whatever
trying to
you
poke
wanted,
these
they
things
would
down your
go
mouth,
school,
which
school, what
they
you
call
like.
the speaker, what you got to speak into. And the silly questions they asked,
Always there, they knew it all.
it made me sick in the stomach.
It's terrible. What sort of housekeeping?
They looked on the negative side of
What
things,
sort of meals you cooked your kid? I mean, absolutely.
and they asked
just
questions
stuff all
after
together.
questions
Comes
about
up like
divisions,
zoological cases.
simply because
You know,
Mr. Bodney back home here took out a junction to try and stop us.
Privacy, they took everything. You were doing nothing.
We piled into the taxis and back to the hotel.
They
We
had the
packed
power
our
to
bags
snap
and we
your fingers
signed off.
irretrievably change your life forever.
And then we got in taxis and we rushed down to the
I'll tell you
station.
this, and I know it to be the truth. Sure, we got locked up before the cool
It was a weird looking setup system
they
there.
arrested 130
where you all got to
Indians
stand
in Perth in 6 months.
in one big
They
mob
just came down on it.
and watch
Every
these
time
big
we do
signboards. And at the moment the signboards say that the train is ready, it's a wild, mad stampede.
We had this big fight.
People pushing your big trolleys with your things, and you've got to run and you've got to grab your seats. It was awful. But it was exciting to see these people in their everyday movements. There was old people, there was women with prams, and there was old men trying to keep up with the younger ones. And all those who were too slow
Outside, they really got into it.
had to bring up the
Ripping
rear
pickets off the fence to whack
and
each
come puffing
other.
into the carriages,
Spilled out onto the train
searching
tracks
for
to stop the
seats.
train.
Our journey began.
Well, the cops turned up and marched them
It
all
was the
over.
fastest ride in the train that I've ever had for a long time. It was one of these diesel-type design trains, and boy, these lampposts were just going past the window. And you couldn't see anything properly. It was going that quickly as it passed through the outer suburbans of the busy London town, through the countryside.
That was the end of the dance.
We
Finished
arrived
it
at
for
Liverpool.
everybody.
It was drizzly rain. It's 5 minutes walk from the
was round this
end of the
time
line
that
there to the
Miss
big,
Clark got
huge,
sick and had to
old,
take a break.
I'm sure it was an old castle in the early days, 6 stories high. It was done up. It was a big mansion with all these polished old furniture,
This is a 1950,
marble floors,
changing times.
chandeliers.
Family Guys Middleton comes in and took over Neville's old job as Native Commissioner.
We booked in
Mr. Middleton, the new broom. He was all
the
for the
ladies
same
behind the
colour
counter and the
simulation.
men's.
The idea was to turn us up like a white fella.
It was exciting to hear these people talk and how they talked.
Broadcast today, the government of Western Australia
Different
once
way.
again proves itself a leading light in native administration.
We all had a room each on the 6th floor. That was the top floor.
That though darker in
Some of them were lucky.
the half-caste native of Western Australia,
We had a view out, but I wasn't so lucky. Mine was views from the big, huge windows in the big, huge room where they put me in was
But in order to be eligible, the native
You could
must
fit in
first prove that he is ready to meet the
100 people in the room comfortably, sleeping on
He must
floors.
show
The
he's of good
the
behaviour and
huge
reputation.
double bed they gave me,
Prove himself free of
I felt like I was the king.
He
in a
must speak and
castle.
understand the English language.
So far away from home.
Jackie. Adopt the manner and habits of our civilized life. I say, keep up the good work, Jack. And
To get your meals, you had to go down in the morning and in the night. There's no dinner.
we in the government know that if the native is to be
Going into the
saved,
huge
he must be
dining
absorbed
room,
by
you-
us, culturally, socially, and economically, into
You
our
had to serve
way of
yourself
life.
with all this food
There is no other
in these
form.
hot little sort of a window type things.
To,
You had to sign on.
Native Affairs office.
And the choice is yours of what you'd like to eat.
The citizenship, but I was very angry.
The main meal course was turkey and beef. I thought of,
something, as I said, they've got.
when I looked at the beef, I thought of the
What right had they
problems
got
they had in England with their beef. When I looked at the turkey,
left.
I don't eat turkey.
I was a person of the country. This is my country.
The Coolbaroo fell apart for a while there. The idea was never lost, but getting a haul after that was just not on.
Dug up our warrior
People
Yagan's head.
really missed the dances. After a lot of meeting and
It
talking,
was an old cemetery with
Moonars
grey
themselves made it a rule
tombstones.
there'd be no fighting at the dance. And whammo, they got it up and running
It
again.
looked really old. Went around to the area where they dug his head out of underneath of all these other young babies. It was sad. They had some trees all around. Probably represented the Swan Valley in those days when he was alive. We stood in silence around the grave, and I threw some dust from the 110,000-year-old ancient sacred site in the Swan Valley that we've got down and all around where the ground was dug up. And while we were standing there, this black and white bird came and sat on the tree, and it made a big ruckus on the tree, shaking its tail and making a noise. And I stood there in silence and listened to it and thought, this is the spirit of Yagan now, our warrior, being happy, being pleased that we've come to take him home, bring his head home and his spirit back to where the headless body is. We got into our taxis and left and went back to the hotel. The next morning
Every
was
so
the
often there'd be a
handing
beauty
over of the
contest.
head. That was on a
Once
Sunday.
a year, Miss Coolbaroo.
And all Saturday night I was really restless. That's when the news of the Prince of Wales, Princess Di, met an accident. She died
All
between
the old Yorgers that scheme behind the scenes.
the time the accident
were
took
trying
place
the
and
girls
the
up to
handing.
win. And all the time I reckon they had one picked. There'd be some reason behind it, but always they'd give it to the one who knew.
Jesse's coming to town. Yes, you guessed it. Someone from somewhere else. That King Cole, in fact.
When Nat King Cole was there, he met with Coolbaroo people. You see, the Coolbaroo Club was the only place black people could meet in town. So when international artists came to Perth, like the Harlem Blackbirds, they'd come along to the club and perform. And just, talk about what's going on in the world. Albert Namatjira and Carol Blair came along. It was the place to go.
Down at Catania, Nora booked accommodation
These were a strong bunch of people. They spoke out through the paper and in Parliament about the dumb laws and the straight-out raw bill the government was dishing out to all.
Well, when it all ended, it seemed to end very quickly. It was Christmas Eve, 1959. There was a dance playing that night. Mum and I had to pick some things up from town. But when we got to the store, Mum waited outside and I ran in. We were running in there a minute. When I came out, Mum was laying on the pavement. She just died. Just 28. And her heart ticking. I couldn't believe it.
You know, it was one of the saddest days of my life. I wouldn't know anything about it till we went to the dance and everyone was ready and everybody people there. And even my grandmother, when she was in, she just started crying and that sort of. And so we sort of, oh, it was really sad, so we had to go home, you know.
There was no dance that night, and for me, I think after Rhonda died, the spirit just went out of the thing. But I never stopped mixing with Mum.
It was just a great experience. And I've never been to a dance since I left those dances, because I did attempt to go to a dance once in Laura when I was married, and I wasn't allowed in because I was Aboriginal. But those dances were my teenage years.
All I want to say is those who have me at the time, I was incredibly thank you. Very, very much.
Never alone. One believer.
The whites shot these Aboriginal people coming over the horizon just at dusk. I reckon this was a terrible thing that happened here, and all this is forgotten about.
Just mowed them down with a shotgun. Mowed them down like animals.
We used to feel our land under our feet, but now it's turned into a street. We used to live off this land, but now we watch the town expand. I miss my way of living. What do we get for Thanksgiving? I miss the things we did, and I miss the way we used to live.
This was once happiness, nature's gift to the Aboriginal people. It's these four walls, it's his ceiling, it's his floor. The soft ground represents to the Aboriginal people the soft mattress. The low scrub as a windbreak. The trees as a shade on a hot day. When they die, it's wood for fire. This is happiness. This was happiness. A peace of mind, with the wind blowing strongly in their faces, the sun. As a community of people, in the eyes of the white man it was nothing. To the Aboriginal people, it's priceless.
All over Australia, Aboriginal land was invaded. Aboriginal people pushed and shoved around by gold rushes. What happened to Aboriginal people then, it is still happening to Aboriginal people today.
Low living conditions and the bad treatment of Aboriginal people is Australia-wide. They have been forced away from their traditional way of life to live in misery like this. The living conditions of Aboriginal people wasn't created yesterday. It was created with the coming of the white race. They came in big mobs from all over the world to Western Australia looking for gold. The soles of their white feet trampled on the shores of Fremantle. The stampede was on inland to the Coolgardie. The spread of their greediness went in all directions, north, east and south, leaving their rabbit burrows behind them, claiming the gold and robbing the Aboriginal people of their land. Gold is the magnet that causes this greediness and destruction.
Paddy Hannon claimed to be the first guy that found Kalgoorlie, but that's not true. We all know the Wongais of Kalgoorlie, and it's all combined right back to Warburton Ranges and up to Northern Territory, up to Alice Springs, Darwin. And they know all about Kalgoorlie.
The white population of Western Australia jumped from 30,000 to 200,000 between 1881 and 1903, by which year gold made up 88% of Western Australia's exports. The greedy London investors bought many shares in the gold mines. Same old story. Soon the rich and powerful companies had taken control.
In the gold rush that came to Coolgardie, there was a prospector named Leslie Robert Menzies.
He bought himself 19 camels and found himself an Aboriginal guide, who he called Jimmy. He travelled north for 100 miles from Coolgardie until he came to a waterhole.
This is the water the Aboriginal live in. This is their home, what you call a munda. We say it in Aboriginal language, a munda, which is our home. Gubby is water, jilla, waterhole where they come and live here. Until Menzies, Robert Menzies came up here and filled all his water tanks up. And of course he was well equipped with firearms and he had a rifle. There was Aboriginal people living in this area, not knowing that the white man is creeping on them looking for gold, and found the Aboriginal people here. There was 8 Aboriginal were shot by Menzies.
We had a merry time for several moments, but bullets won the day. The natives retreated, leaving 8 dead.
We don't know how many people have been shot. We don't know the tally, but his diaries say that he shot so many people. He could have shot the people right from Coolgardie right up to this waterhole.
North of Menzies, I buried gelignite around the outskirts of my camp and made hand grenades of dynamite and short fuses. Then the fun began. Spears began to come from all sides. I pressed the detonator. Dirt, shrubs and blacks went up in the air. I threw a few hand grenades, but no more spears came whizzing about me. At daybreak, I walked out to view the 10-minute battlefield. 14 dead natives, blood trails led all over the place.
Well, the Aboriginal took off in different directions, running, escaping for their lives to the nearest waterhole, which is up here about 40 miles. And they could go to a waterhole about another 90 kilometers out here. And they can go for water back here about another 100 kilometers. So we know this water was the main water that he came and watered his camel, and then he went up north from here about 12 kilometers from here, north from here to Menzies, where he found this 6 ton of gold.
I stopped my camel. At my feet lay quartz specimens studded with gold. Filled with excitement, I jumped to the ground. My heels crushed into a pile of nuggets. Nuggets and quartz lay everywhere. The place was literally saturated with the metal. I hustled back to the camels for sacks. In 2 hours, we had gathered up 750,000 pounds worth of gold. Next morning, we started for Coolgardie to record our claim. All day we rode as if we were possessed. We had taken a room at the Palace Hotel and were carrying the bags carefully in when one of them broke. There was a wild scramble amongst the loungers and many cries of, "Where is your mine?" I invited them to join me in a drink. Champagne it was, to the tune of 4,000 pounds. I posted directions and bedlam broke loose. Out of town the mob went in a solid pack. The rush had set in. This wind-swept, desolate place, which until a few hours before had known only the pad of the blackfellows' feet, was now an excited, roaring camp. Life ran high and tumultuous. Lust, greed, avarice, generosity, hope, despair whirled round in a mad dance. Every day teams were coming in by the hundreds, camels loaded with corrugated iron for buildings. 34 public houses were erected in 6 weeks. The place was a hotbed of thieving and lawlessness. The government surveyor came out and surveyed the town site. Building lots were 30 by 50 feet and sold for £884 apiece. I was appointed mayor and had the privilege of choosing the rest of the councillors. The raw town sprawled over the hills in sun-drenched ugliness. Here, as in Coolgardie, Kalgoorlie and kindred other spots, another chapter was written in Australian history.
In 1920, my father came down from the desert area as a young man, and my father was put in prison, and then they had handcuffs and chains on his legs. And my father told me that they're going to send him way over to Fremantle, Rottnest Island, where he could rot away.
Because in those times they put any Aboriginal people in jail for 2 or 3 years without going to court. Because the law was very crooked in those times. You get an Aboriginal black people and send them down to jail and forget about it. Throw the key away. The policemen that have been putting the Aboriginal people in chains and sending them down to Magumba in them train bogies, the cattle bogies, he got promoted and became the Commissioner of Police in Perth. His name is Mr. Dave Hunter.
When white authorities wanted to, they took Aboriginal people away from their tribal land and sent them to places nothing less than concentration camps. Prisoners from coastal tribes, they sent them to Cosmo Newbury in the desert goldfields. Prisoners from the desert tribes, they sent to Moore River Native Settlement, today called Magumba, near the coast. They sent some to Rottnest Island, across the sea from Fremantle, where the water was thick with sharks.
They had to build a prison in Cosmo Newbury for the people of the Noongar people from the southwest. They got a big barbed wire fenced in. This Mr. Donegan was put in charge there, and he used to ride on his horseback with a whip, and he could whip the Aboriginal people on a horseback and make them work. Oh, it was terrible in those times. One family ran away from Cosmo Newbury, and he went after him and brought him back in chains. Real slavery in those times in 1939 to 45.
Aboriginal people were forced labour on cattle and sheep stations. Many were branded like cattle or burnt on the feet to stop them escaping. Up until well after the Second World War, police hunted them down and took them back by force if they escaped from the stations where they'd been working.
So this is the life story of our people, my father and them, and they roamed around Laverton area and through Kalgoorlie in fear.
Aboriginal parents had no rights over their own children. Under legislation passed in 1905, 1911 and 1954, all Aboriginal children became wards of the state and could be removed to government institutions.
When I was born, if I was found in the camps, they'd take me away and send me down to Magumba, and I would never see my mother again. My mother always warned me, if you see a white horse coming, you know that's the policeman. So you got to run for your life, jump in the sugar bag and hide. One day I seen this horse coming along, I could see the legs, you know, coming along, and because I was small, oh, I knew I was gone. So I had to run and hide and jump straight in my sugar bag and tucked away and kept still, you know. And the policeman come there and he said, oh, any half-caste kids here? You know, and he looked around and he said, what's in that sugar bag? Oh, nothing, my mother said, and she made that she was sitting on top of me. Oh, it's only my tucker. And if he opened that sugar bag, I would have been gone. And I was really scared. I'm sure you could feel my heart thumping there. And I was so small, you know, I could hear him talking. And, oh, well, there's no children here. And away he went. And I came out and I was able to breathe. So my mother said, well, I've seen the white man polishing shoes. I'll go and get some boot polish. So my mother went and got some boot polish and put boot polish all over me. And so I sat in the sun to dry, but you know what it's like when you put the boot polish in the sun, it all comes up, start peeling. Of course, it all peeled off and that was no good. So I had to go well out in the bush and hide. It's not funny, but so sad to see us hiding. And if any white men did see us, that's why we've seen a mob of Aborigines there with half-caste kids running along. So they used to tell the police said, well, we'll track them down. They get on their horses, come out and search for us. I know there's lots of children went down there, never been back to see their mother or father. I was always put away, covered away and hidden away. And until they couldn't hide me any further, because I was running around at this time, until I went into the mission. I had to go whether I liked it or not. I met him for the first time, and I said to my mother in Wanga language, "Oh, who's this boy? You know, what's he doing here?" And my mother said, "Oh, that's your brother." The government come there. They didn't want to educate the full-blood people. Said they're useless, they're no good, they won't learn anything anyway. So let them go. Keep the half-caste children. Just teach them only. So our friends, our relations had to get out of the mission. It was really sad. I wouldn't even let my mother out of my sight. We was put in this home, fence right around, and every so often we can come and see our mothers just at the fence. And not so very long ago, maybe about 12 years ago, we bumped into a man who was named after a town called Laverton. And this man said, "Hello, brother and sister. I'm glad to meet you," he said, "because I'm a Wangai." And he found that we were Wangais. And he said, "I'm a Wangai." He said, "I was sent away." We knew because of his name. And we heard of him a long time ago, you know, because our parents, our mums, and that used to say, "Oh, a lot of kids went away from here and told us who they were, you know." When I seen that film the other day, Woman of the Sun, well, I cried all the way through the film. And I met some of my friends, you know, and one woman said, "Oh, I got bitter when I seen that film because she too was running for her life, you know, running away from white men, running away from the police." Because in those days in Laverton, the police used to hunt all the Wangais out. No coming into town, they got whipped out, shot at. And even when they used to come to Kalgoorlie, my mother said, when I was a young girl, she used to tell me all the stories. She said, I had to get for my life, and look at all these people today, they're free. Not like when I was a young girl. 6 o'clock, out of town, the stock whip, they'll come out of the stock whip and crack the Wangais down. Shoot them out. They belt them out of town. And that's the truth. Nobody liked the truth today. It hurts, and yet they've done it to our people. And we are still here to live with the story and to put up with all this. And we're still putting up with it. I suppose when I'm dead, and I'm 50, just going into 50 now, and my mother had a rough spin before that.
Aborigines in Western Australia still, in 1984, cannot permit or invite anyone to enter their own reserves. This right is reserved to a minister of the state government.
Menzies, this is all what's left of Menzies, of the town itself. Menzies is like all other ghost towns, where the riches fade out, and so does the buildings and the population of white people. After all what's been done to Aboriginal people, all that is left now is a ghost town and suffering Aboriginal people on the outskirts of it, still living in low living conditions with no progress whatsoever.
We're going to talk about Menzies, the people living in Menzies, and this reserve here, which is put here by the Shire Council. Because we have no land, these are Aboriginal people that have been scattered throughout the township. They haven't got a place to live. So the government has put these houses, only one-room houses, and 6 people live in it. Department of Aboriginal Affairs built these houses for the Aboriginal people. There's nothing much in these houses here because they got no furnitures. All they got an open fireplace and to camp on this and no hard cement. This house been built 10 years ago. The Shire gave the permission to build this places here for the Aboriginals to live here, but this is not our land. We're only trespassing in white men's land, which is we should have a piece of this land for ourselves and to make it benefit. I can see you, the first mine was found here when Menzies found his gold way up there. They call it Lady Shetland. This was been a big mining town. And they took all our land and all our games, our kangaroo and the emu and everything, and we got nothing. The people here now are stranded, living in this little area. They can't even find a kangaroo for themselves. White men only told us to live here because there's no other way we could go. We can't go out from here, from the Menzies Common, because if we do, we're trespassing on the squatters' premises. And the squatters, they'll chase us back into the town. He said, you go back to the town and don't come up trespassing in my area. But that's our country. They lived and walked and, you know, and lived in harmony. But now we're crushed up and we have to live in this sort of a place here, like this place here now in the reserve. He said the reserve is a place so you can keep the average together. And you'll never ever prosper. Big mining people, they took all our gold and wealth like Kalgoorlie and Boulder and Windar, I could name all the mines. Because we want some of our land, which they took from us. We're our people, we're our young generation. Some of these squatters are big people, got a lot of money. They got 3 or 4 stations, hundreds of miles square. And yet, if I go out here about 10 miles out, they said, you go back to Menzies. This is my land. Land is very important for our people because we want land for our children. You can see the little children now. They're going to be the new generation of our people. And in time to come when we're died and gone, well, these young generation want land for their own. By the time when they grow and if they don't give us this land, well, these young generation will perish and lost their culture and everything. We're looking so we can have the land for our own. We'll have the school for our children, cattle station. You go from every little township, you find the Aboriginal being pushed out, and they're living in the outskirts of the towns in Laverton and Leonora and Weyburn, Walood and all around Kalgoorlie. Who's benefiting from Australia? The wealth. The wealth is down underground. The mining company, the white men getting the wealth. And we are paupers.
We always fight for our rights. We always had discrimination. But we have a strong determination. They rate us second class. But we know all about the past. I miss my way of living. What do we get for Thanksgiving? I miss the things we did, and I miss the way
Kalgoorlie, the Golden Mile, Western Australia, 1983. It's been 90 years now of the progress of the white man society, where they've been mining for gold in the Kalgoorlie area. What was once here is buried under all the mining waste and the mining dumps that you see. This is where once the Aboriginal people, the original owners, lived. It's the progress of the white society that forces Aboriginal people to move. It's the force of the lust for power and the greediness that goes with progress in the white society.
One guy from this area here is going to tell us a bit about Kalgoorlie, how it was before the Paddy Hannon and his crew came up here.
Paloma biyang nyenara, palo bagare biyang kaya chong yun jat kaya chong aja, yel chuyo after kaya chong berlikanya, palo nyenangi, kaul ba, neinar kaul nothing, we law, big law, te sapo, ele, I don't know, maybe ele, chokor ba, wadi ko jarang alanja, palo bola nyenangi. Alabula gone, Lenra, right through to Wengilena and Mandamar, even the Wobot Rangers. Yeah.
What was very sacred to them before the whites ever came? The two gods came before, put things where it's supposed to be. They travel all through the whole of Australia. Put down the laws for us Aboriginals, setting and outlining of everything that exists. That's where the two gods painted themselves. There's red ochre there. And you can see back up here, this hill up here, that's where the two gods sat down there and they sang a song about Kalgoorlie. From there they went over where the mines is over there, the Mount Charlotte, where Paddy Hannon first found this piece of gold. And that's why there's an outcry from the Aboriginals, you know, every time where the Westing mining goes over and they dig here and dig here, because it's very sacred to us and we sort of fret against, you know, when people like the Westing minings take over the whole country.
Today, where Paddy Hannon first picked up gold, they've got a big hole dug there. Western Mining Corporation, in partnership with Homestake Mining of the United States of America, controls that place, Mount Charlotte Mine. Down the bottom, 1,000 feet down, they've got 50-ton trucks taking the ore to the crushing plants.
We feel ourselves inside the inward cry. The white people cannot feel this because they're not part of this, the sacred laws and things, you know. Anything that comes up concerning the Westing minings and every other thing, you know, people say that we're not allowed to be here. We're supposed to be here. This is our land and this is part of us. It hurts our whole being inside of us. The white people don't know what it is to be part of Australia.
$16,000 million worth of gold, and that's today's prices. That's what white men have taken out from the Golden Mile on the edge of Kalgoorlie. Nearly $100 million worth of gold, tax-free gold, was taken from Kalgoorlie mines in 1983. Aborigines got nothing, no royalties. Another $70 million worth of gold, tax-free again, came from other mines in the area. Again, Aborigines got nothing. And all that gold mined today, they don't even use 10% of it. Most of it, they bury away in vaults and safes. All the mines you see in this film are run by Western Mining Corporation. Their gold mines produce more gold than any others in Australia. They rank fourth in the world's nickel producers.
The Westing Mines have made millions and millions of dollars out of digging up such places as Kalgoorlie and all the other mining towns. They've made millions of dollars of the gold which has been taken out of the land there, and the poor old Aboriginals are still living on the fringes of the townships. People are still living down here, or been camping here. There's another one there right to this very day now, after Paddy Hannan's been suing the mining corporations, and the people are still camping around here. The whole land itself here, it's owned by the Westing Mines. You should at least think, you know, the Westing Mines should give us a campsite here where people could come in freely then, run entirely by the Aboriginals themselves.
Rather than assist them to get a cattle station, which was what the fringe dwellers of Kalgoorlie wanted, Parkston was built to get them off the street, out of sight, out of mind.
We live in a world of fear. My people, they used to live for years until alcohol brought heartache and tears.
Parkston is not what the Aboriginal people, fringe dwellers of Kalgoorlie, wanted. A bandstand, sort of a house here with no walls on it. They've got to walk several hundred yards to get water. No running water, no beds, no fireplace, no electricity. The Aboriginal people pay rent for places like this. And this is definitely not what the fringe dwellers should have shoved down their throats. Land is what the Aboriginal people wanted.
We tried for about 11 years for a pastoral area. We could provide employment. We could build our own self-esteem, pride and dignity. We've been rejected by the Shire itself. And the same stories that comes up again, there's no land or not enough money. See?
These houses here, I reckon they should have walls on them. They're not houses at all.
Hey! Hey!
What you see here now, it's not what the Blackfellas really wanted. It's the white man's idea that's been put into effect here.
Before Windera Mines was thought about, the Aborigines had their privacy of going to their own ceremonies, and they had their tribal places where to go to the sacred areas. It was freely done. Windera used to be the Valley of Winds. It is the sacred area there, and the people used to go from Laverton right to Windera to have their ceremonies. The place itself looks beautiful. Used to be a lot of flowers, a lot of games, such as kangaroos, emus and every other things, before the mining corporation got into it. Now there's hardly any flowers to be seen there because it's been destroyed. The waters that have been pumped out of the mine itself is a hell of a lot of chemicals. I don't know what it is, but it's very deadly to the plants and things around. The Aboriginals themselves, well, they've got no other place to go to now. They can't move out to Windera for their yearly ceremonies because it's been banned, because it's owned by the Western Mines. And at Laverton itself, they haven't got a real dwelling place. They've got to camp up on top of the hills near the town itself, like every other places around the Eastern Goldfields where the Western Mines have taken up, staked their claims. Aborigines got to stand aside.
There's nothing here for Aboriginal people living around Laverton here.
Yeah, well, the people couldn't He wait. Ask him, talk, and he never help him quick, you know?
You've got no land and no place to stop at all.
Yeah. He never helped him.
So most of the Aboriginal children are going to school from living conditions like this, being schooled all day and coming back to living conditions like this.
Yeah, should be helping, you know, people.
Should help the people,
Yeah.
mothers and fathers,
Yeah.
and families.
Yeah, people are helping to put them in school.
They're not worrying about just native welfare. Community welfare or the government or whatever. You got no help at all.
Yeah, that's true.
The chances of survival for these Aboriginal people is very slim. There's no understanding, there's no consideration, and there's no cooperation from the governments concerned where these Aboriginal people are living in low living conditions. No land, no comforts of home.
Police found Aboriginal people now in the streets of Lenore, Laverton and Kalgoorlie and Menzies, all and Willoona. They just follow the Aboriginal wherever they go. They put them in jail for nothing. And this is happening everywhere where there's Aboriginal people.
I noticed in Laverton here it's a tightly packed town, like a tin of sardines, and all the comforts of home that the mining workers live in, and the Aboriginal people are living on the fringes, carting water for miles and miles. No running water, no electricity, no homes, no nothing, no land. What's this place here?
This place called California Soap. California Soap. This used to be good water. The water dry down, old people they sick all the time, you know?
This is the real old people.
Yeah, old people. They sick all the time, you know? They gotta go a long way somewhere to get a water, with a place to get a water.
How many miles out from town the soak is?
1 mile. 1 mile to walk from here. And when the sun go down, they come early. Before sun goes down. They come early part. No help, no vehicle. Complete nothing. And it's just the main soak here, California soak.
So they move on to the next water hole?
Yeah, they move on next to the water hole.
And when that dries out, they move again?
Move again all the time. Like that.
You know, that's not a wanga nothing. That's not a wanga nothing. That's not a wanga nothing. They hard bastard. No tap, only jerrycan. Fill the water, in jerrycan, come down. Robert, bro, you gotta help us. Because I'm living in the creek. We step in. Every time when it's rain, around the upper Robert, I hope you'll help me.
Want to see to help all the people in Lebanon. But they're still waiting.
Still waiting?
Yeah.
A song from Charlie, one of the contributors from the prison to the day's events. This was on Thursday at Fremantle Jail. Well, here's Josie Boyle, one of the guests at Fremantle Jail for the prisoners' concert. And she's singing Bimbo in Wongai.
Help us more, please. Yeah, and because we've been here too long, you know, we didn't get help properly here. You know, no help from government.
Aboriginal people at Willoona want land the same as Aboriginal people all over Australia. This is what the government has refused to give them. This is the kind of help that Aboriginal people want.
Yeah, more help, please. That's what we want, more help from people, the government. We can't get nothing here, we're still the same, what we've been living before.
The Aboriginal reserve at Leonora was just taken over by mining companies. Fringe drillers at Leonora weren't allowed to speak for themselves. Only a fringe driller can speak of a fringe driller. So I am a fringe driller. When Aboriginal people say grassroots, we are the grassroots of the land. We are the roots that come out of the land. No matter what the white race say, it's when we use those words, it's saying grassroots, that's us, the Aboriginal people. That means that we are part of the land.
White man is destroying this land, digging holes for uranium, oil and gas. White man want to find more, putting this land in such a mess. They are taking everything from us. In time to come, this land will turn to dust.
Yalari means destruction. When the two gods came, they destroyed this evil being, put it under a big spell, said no one allowed to touch it. From generations, told by our elders not to disturb the place or to dig around it or to uplift anything out from the ground itself. This thing is pretty deadly, yet the Westing mines has all the right to go there and unearth this yellow cake.
The mining company had already dug up so many thousand tons of uranium. The water started running everywhere and killed all the bush life. I believe when you unearth any rock from there, it's just like unearthing a dead body from the grave.
The greediness of the whites is going to wreck everything. They've got a plant 4.5 miles out of Kalgoorlie where they treat this uranium. A lot of our people was infected after Maralinga.
That's a camping ground. And some of them got infected with their eyelid falling out, their skin started to eat away. I saw them in Adelaide.
A lot of people died there. This hasn't been recorded. About 300 to 400 people who was destroyed.
This is our country. We lived, roamed around here. We ate off the bush. All our people used to roam around down in the gullies, come down here hunting. We'd get a lot of bodies. There was plenty to eat, never short of any food, because we know where to go to the tree. If we're way out and there's no water close by, we'd go to those big currajong trees and we dig around them and we break the roots and we survive till we get to the next water hole. And all through this country, all the Aboriginal people, they know exactly where the rock holes are and how long it would take them to go right through where the water is, right around through the Camelback Hills. This is the land that our Aboriginal people lived in it, and we loved it, and we survived in it. The magnificent country, beautiful country, and we want our children to go on and to keep this country that belongs to us.
I still get a strong feeling towards it, see? I myself handed down to my children and from their children, on, and it keeps on going. And it never fades away.
Is the government of Australia going to give land back to the Aboriginal people? Or will our children of tomorrow go through the injustice that we, the Aboriginal people, went through? the false promises and the torture, the killing and the ignorance of no understanding. Forced away by 90 years of lust for power and greediness. Forced to the fringes of town. By the mining companies and the progress that goes with it of the white society. The land to the black boy survival. Land means everything to him. It builds up his dignity back in him and makes him feel that he's responsible to himself and sharing. He doesn't want just a house and a yard down the back. He wants land as a whole. They want to run cattle or sheep or start farming or create things for themselves in the way that they feel that it's going to assist them. They know, they're experts. They're planners of their own destiny. Land to the Aboriginal peoples, and it's self-controlled by them themselves, with no white ideas attached to it. It's not just scraps of reserve land. They've got to have huge strips of land to live as a whole, as a large community of people. It's not the population of here and now that the Aboriginal people are looking at. It's the coming generation. You've got to have that land first to build. Only then will the Aboriginal people have a future to build what is planned out for those children of tomorrow.
We used to feel our land under our feet, but now it's turned into a street. We used to live off this land, but now we watch the town expand. I miss my way of living. What do we get for Thanksgiving? I miss the things we did, and I miss the way we used to live. And when we get sick, we don't get the same treatment as the white. We always fight for our right. We always had discrimination, but we have a strong determination. They rate us second class, but we know all about the past. I miss my way of living. What do we get for Thanksgiving? I miss the things we did, and I miss the way we used to live. I miss my